My name is Tim, I'm 17, and I live in a small town in Ohio. It was a Friday night, and like most nights, I was up late with my friends playing Fortnite. It had become a routine for us, me, Kevin, Sam, and Jason. We'd stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, cracking jokes and trying to win matches. It was the only time I felt free, escaping into the game world where nothing from real life could touch us. But that night, something changed. We were deep into a squad match, and things were intense. We were down to the final circle, just a few teams left. Kevin, who's usually the most vocal of us, suddenly went quiet. At first I thought maybe he was focusing or his mic cut out. That kind of thing happens all the time. I didn't think much of it. We pushed through, giving out call-outs, telling each other where the enemy teams were, and coordinating attacks. Kevin's character was still moving around, still fighting. We all assumed his headset must have just glitched. The game ended, and we won. It was one of those adrenaline-pumping moments where we should have been celebrating. Sam and Jason were screaming in the mic, hyped about the win, but Kevin stayed quiet. I checked the chat. "Hey Kev, you there?" No response. "Come on man, we just won. Say something." Still nothing. "Maybe his mic died," Jason said. "Yeah, probably," I replied, but something didn't sit right with me. Kevin always had something to say, especially after a win. We hung around in the lobby for a bit, but Kevin's character just stayed idle. Eventually, we called it a night, all of us assuming we'd talk to him in the morning. The next day, I woke up to my phone, ringing. It was Sam. He sounded freaked out, his voice shaky. "Tim, dude, something's wrong with Kevin." "What do you mean?" I asked, still half asleep. "He's dead, man. Kevin's dead." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "What? No, that doesn't make sense. We were just playing last night." "I know," Sam whispered. "But his mom found him this morning. He hung himself in his room." I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing. Kevin was gone? Just like that? It didn't seem real. We'd just been playing Fortnite, having a normal night. None of it made any sense. Later that day, I got more details. Kevin's computer had still been on when they found him. His Fortnite character was still logged into the game, standing there, in the same lobby we had left him in. He hadn't moved. The police were treating it as a suicide, but something about it felt off. Then came the strangest part. The police wanted to investigate Kevin's computer to see if there were any signs of what led him to take his own life. They retrieved the footage from his game. What they found made everything even worse. On the screen, during our last match, there was something none of us had noticed. In the final moments of the game, just before Kevin stopped talking, a figure appeared behind him. At first, it was hard to make out. Just a dark, shadowy figure standing at the edge of his room, behind his gaming chair. But then the footage became clearer. It was a man wearing a mask, just standing there, watching Kevin. Kevin didn't react, didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge the figure at all. The footage showed Kevin's last moments alive. He stood up, walked off screen, and never came back. The man in the mask stayed behind for a few more minutes, then walked toward the camera. That's where the footage ended. The police didn't know what to make of it. They thought it might have been some kind of sick prank, someone hacking into his webcam or something, but how could anyone be standing behind him in his room? His house was locked. His mom was asleep down the hall. There was no sign of forced entry. Nobody had been caught on any security cameras. It was like this masked figure appeared out of nowhere. The authorities didn't give us any more information after that. Kevin's death was officially ruled a suicide, but none of us believed it. Kevin didn't seem like someone who was struggling. He was always laughing, always having a good time. And that figure in the footage, who was it? Why was it there? Weeks went by, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I'd lie awake at night, staring at my computer screen, afraid to play Fortnite again. Every shadow in my room seemed darker. Every noise seemed louder. I started imagining things, like someone was standing behind me while I played just out of view, And then one night, while I was scrolling through my messages, I got a notification. It was from Kevin's Fortnite account. Wanna play? I stared at the screen, my heart racing. Kevin was gone, but his character, it was still logged in. My name is Sam, and I'm 22 years old. I live alone in a small apartment just outside of Denver, Colorado. I've been streaming Fortnite for almost 2 years now, with over 50,000 followers on Twitch. I'm pretty well known in the gaming community. Every night I go live for a few hours, and tonight was no different, so I thought. It was a regular Tuesday evening. My dog Max was curled up on the couch behind me while I sat in front of the camera, ready for another stream. The chat was buzzing as usual, people asking me about my loadouts, tips for building, and just spamming random memes. I loaded up Fortnite and dove into a match. As I was fighting through the storm, I noticed something weird in the chat. Stop the stream. I glanced over at it, but I didn't think much of it. Trolls show up all the time during streams, trying to get a reaction out of me. I laughed, shrugged it off, and kept playing. A few minutes later, another message popped up from the same user. You're not safe. Again, I brushed it off. I figured it was just another viewer messing with me. My focus was on the game and I didn't have time to deal with weird messages. But then, the messages started getting more specific. Your dog's barking outside. I froze for a second. I hadn't even realized Max had gotten off the couch. I looked around and saw he wasn't in the room anymore. Slowly, I took off my headset and listened. Sure enough, I could hear him barking outside. It was strange, but I didn't panic. I got up and walked over to the window, checking to see if someone was near. Maybe a raccoon or a stray cat had wandered close by, but there was nothing, just darkness and the distant sound of cars. I called Max back inside, closed the door, and sat back down. The game continued. The chat, however, was going nuts. People were asking me what was going on, some laughing, others spamming random emojis. And then, the same user sent another message. Your neighbor's walking past the window. Chills ran down my spine. I hadn't seen anyone outside, and my apartment complex wasn't exactly in a busy area. Most of my neighbors were quiet, rarely going outside at this hour. I glanced over at the window again, but this time I didn't see anything. Still, I felt a creeping unease settle in my gut. I tried to shake it off and refocus on the game, but it was hard. The cryptic messages kept coming. Don't ignore me, Sam. Something's wrong. Check outside again. My heart was racing now. The chat had gone from curious to concerned. Everyone was asking if I was okay, telling me to call the police. Some people thought it was all a joke, but I wasn't so sure anymore. My hands were shaking as I reached for my mouse, and just as I was about to click into another match, there was a loud bang on my door. I jumped so hard I nearly knocked my headset off. The bang was so loud it echoed through the apartment, and for a second, I thought my heart had stopped. I muted the mic and slowly stood up, my eyes fixed on the door. Another bang, this time even louder. Who the hell is that? I muttered to myself, creeping toward the door. My hand hovered over the doorknob, but I didn't turn it. Something told me not to open it. I peered through the peephole, but all I could see was darkness. No one was there. My breath caught in my throat, and a wave of nausea hit me. Suddenly, everything went quiet. The banging stopped. Max was silent. Even the chat had slowed down, as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for what would happen next. I didn't open the door. Instead, I grabbed my phone and called the police. They arrived about 15 minutes later. I explained everything, the weird messages, the banging on the door, and how I felt like I was being watched. The officers looked around, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary at first. Then, one of them noticed something outside. Lying in the grass, just a few feet from my window, was my neighbor's body. He'd been brutally murdered. His throat was slit, and there were signs of a struggle. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I had just seen him earlier that day, walking his dog like he always did. Now he was gone, just like that. The police questioned me for hours, but there wasn't much I could tell them. I didn't see or hear anything until those cryptic messages started appearing in the chat. After they left, I sat in my apartment, shaken, exhausted, and terrified. I thought it was over, but then my phone buzzed. A notification from Twitch, another message. "You should have stopped the stream." I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. The police never found the killer, and those messages, they haven't stopped. Every night they come back, reminding me that someone is still out there, watching. I don't stream anymore. My name is Jack. I'm 19 and I live in a quiet little town in Ohio. I've always been into gaming, especially Fortnite. It's something I do to unwind, especially late at night. Tonight I was playing a duo match, just like I usually do. I met a guy online. His username was Silent Killer. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his voice was deep, cold. At first I thought nothing of it. It's the internet, right? People use weird names all the time. We started playing, and honestly, this guy was good. I mean, really good. He seemed to know every move the enemy would make before it even happened. We were winning match after match. I figured I just found one of those Fortnite pros who play all night. But then, things started to feel strange. At one point, after about an hour of gaming, Silent Killer said something that caught me off guard. He said, "So how's life in Ohio?" My stomach dropped. I had never mentioned where I was from. I brushed it off as a lucky guess. Maybe he saw it on my profile somehow, but I don't remember putting my location there. I tried to focus on the game, but I couldn't shake the weird feeling. A few minutes later, he said something even creepier. "Your house must be really quiet at night, Jack." He knew my name. I never told him my real name. I just froze for a second. I didn't respond. My headset felt heavy on my ears as I stared at the screen, my fingers hesitating on the controller. I told myself it had to be a prank or some weird coincidence, but it didn't feel right. I tried to keep playing, but my mind was racing. Who was this guy? How did he know these things about me? I finally worked up the courage to ask him, "How do you know my name?" He stayed silent for a few moments before responding, "I know more than you think, Jack." My heart started pounding. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Was this some sick joke? I decided I had to get out of the game, but before I could log off, I got a private message from him. It simply said, "Look outside your window." I froze in my chair. My room was dark except for the glow of the screen. Slowly, I turned my head to the window next to my desk. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I told myself it was just a stupid joke, but I had to look. I couldn't stop myself. I pulled the curtain back just a little bit, and there he was. A man in a hooded sweatshirt was standing in my driveway, not moving, just staring up at my window. In his hand, I could see something reflecting the streetlight. Something sharp. My entire body went cold. I jumped back from the window, my controller clattering to the floor. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. I logged off the game as fast as I could and grabbed my phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. "Someone's outside my house," I managed to say when the operator picked up. My voice was shaky, panicked. "He has a knife or something. Please send someone." The next few minutes felt like hours. I kept checking the window, but the guy was gone. By the time the police arrived, the street was empty. I explained everything, feeling stupid for even mentioning the game, but they took it seriously. They walked around the house, checked the driveway, and then one of the officers called me over to the front door. There was something nailed to it, a piece of paper, torn and dirty. I pulled it off and read the message, my hands trembling. "Next time, I won't just be playing online." I stared at the note, my mind spinning. The officers searched the area, but they didn't find anyone. They told me to stay inside, keep the doors locked, and call them if anything else happened. I haven't played Fortnite since that night, but I can't shake the feeling that one day I'll look out that window again and he'll be standing there, waiting.